We went to a poor man's E3. One of my favorite things to do every single year is just watch these big events, the E3, the Paris Games Week, Gamescom, and attending Gamescom is one of my favorite things to do every single time. Playing a bunch of unreleased games, talking to the developers, and I guess many countries have started having these smaller scale events, and we here in Portugal have one called Lisbon Games Week.
Yeah, there's not many conferences happening there, it's just a bunch of stands for games being shown and a lot of opportunities to try new games.
We expected this event to be a lot smaller, so the crowds wouldn't be as crazy, which in my book is a good thing. It means you don't have to stand in line for crazy amounts of hours to play everything that you want.
It was probably the case for the first day. The first day of the event was on a Thursday. We actually went Friday. It was not so bad. It was there was a lot of space, although there was a lot of people as well. Well, at least for what I was expecting. But Saturday, man, Saturday was insane.
The thing I would say is there's always someone playing something you want to play, so you always have to stand in line. You just have to wait for one or two people and then you can have your turn. So it's not as comfortable as playing at home where you don't have to wait at all, but still it's not a crazy amount of time to wait.
Yeah, especially if you're like waiting to play new games that have not been released yet, and
no one's playing those, surprisingly. Like,
yeah,
everyone's playing stuff that has already been released. There were always people on Tekken, for instance. There are so many stations with FIFA. FIFA is just huge here, so that was to be expected. But even Pro Evolution Soccer always had people. But the biggest lines were always for games that were already out, which was weird to me.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, well, me and Globku, we wanted to play Dragon Ball FighterZ. We already did, but it's one of the most anticipated games here in the Magical Noob office, and yeah, to be honest, it's the game that I really wanted to play, and it was right beside Tekken, and Tekken had always so many people on that stand, and it's funny because Dragon Ball was just beside it, and there was not many people playing Dragon Ball.
Which in our, for us it was good. Besides Dragon Ball FighterZ, Ni no Kuni was right next to it. There were barely any people playing that game at any given time. There was a demo for Detroit.
I'm looking forward to it. We got to play Shadow of Colossus.
So the demo had 2 Colossus. I think it had the very first Colossus in the game, which is kind of an easy fight, but neat to learn the game. And then it had Colossus 13, which was super boring. It's the one they showed at Paris Games Week. It's like you gotta climb the boss, and then the boss knocks you off, and then you gotta do it 2 more times. And I just didn't want to repeat it, so I put the controller down because I said no.
But the game is looking amazing.
Yeah, great looks.
It's the same as the other game, the first one that was released. It's just a remaster, but it's looking very good.
Here's a problem with Lisbon Games Week and why we call it the poor man's E3. It's we saw all we wanted to see in about 1 hour, and we realized we had bought 2 tickets for 2 different days. So we had the idea to participate in some esports events. We knew there was going to be a PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds event and a Rocket League event on Saturday. Couldn't sign up for any of those.
Nope.
Because the entries were full as soon as we got there. For PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, the signups were supposed to open at 2 p.m. and close at 3 p.m. So we got there at 2:30 and they were already full. And we were like, wow, they filled up in 30 minutes. And they said, nah, it filled up in the morning.
What?
I thought it opened at 2 p.m. We were here in the morning. We could have totally signed up. What's going on? And then the next day was Rocket League, and we knew we weren't going to be able to do it. We got there at 11:30 a.m. And yeah, I mean, the tournament was for 16 teams. That's just 32 people. That's way too little slots. We knew it wasn't going to happen. We had to settle for Snipper Clips competitive. An amazing casual tournament by Nintendo with like 5 people watching. And that's what's really sad about Lisbon Games Week, is like these guys on stage doing their best to hype up a 5-person crowd.
Yeah.
So sad.
And the other thing was the event was full of non-gaming related stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like they had a nail station near a retro gaming station. That's just insane.
If you want to do your nails next to the retro gaming section, that's where you can do your nails. You have a wrestling lessons and showcases. You had like a trampoline thing. You had those sumo wrestling suits that you put on, and I guess you throw your friends to the ground. I mean, non-gaming stuff, and just like people trying to sell you things, like retailers everywhere. And as far as games, I mean, there was really not that much. I mean, we talked about all the games that haven't been released yet. I mean, outside of some indies that were there that had some interesting things. I liked Hyper Gods. I like that a lot.
There was an indie station from PlayStation, and it's nice to see a lot of Portuguese developers, but also foreign developers going there. It's fun to see. But in my standpoint, when I go to these events, I want to try games that have not been released yet. And from 30 games that were shown, I think 3 or 4 were not released, and that bugs me a bit.
And PlayStation has kind of a strong presence here in Portugal, and they were the ones with the most unreleased games. I mean, even the Bandai Namco stuff was inside PlayStation. Yeah. So Dragon Ball FighterZ, Ni no Kuni, Detroit, and Shadow of Colossus, 4 big upcoming games were at PlayStation. No one else had really any upcoming stuff that was playable. I mean, Nintendo had kind of a sweet booth, and they were trying to make these casual tournaments going on, and they had events throughout the whole day. So they weren't, you know, not too bad. But Microsoft, at first we thought the Xbox booth only had Shadow of War, and that was the whole thing, was like Xbox One X with Shadow of War, and you can go there and play it, I guess. And then I talked to one of the supervisors, which is actually someone I know. He said, nah, this isn't the Microsoft booth, this is the Shadow of War booth. Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Where's the Microsoft booth? They're not here. We have 3 console manufacturers, but one of them doesn't give a crap about selling their product here.
So yeah.
I had fun this weekend, but mainly for the people I hung out with, not for the event. The event was kind of boring, to be honest. And I was tired all day because I had to sleep in the same room as you. What a pleasant experience that was. So all in all, I would say Lisbon Games Week, not really worth it if you are, you know, the type of audience I think we have. I think there were a lot of kids there that really enjoyed the event. If you are looking to meet up with Portuguese YouTubers, that's a perfect place to go. If you want to play some games and you don't have money to buy them, I mean, the tickets are super cheap. It's 10 euros if you're not going on the weekend, and then 13 for the weekends, and you play these $60 games, and I think that's what most people were doing, because the biggest biggest lines were for games that had already been released. If they had the games at home, they probably wouldn't be playing them.
Yeah, and also if you are a fan of League of Legends and Counter-Strike, which is very strong in our country, that was also like a highlight of the show. But well, we're not really fans, so it's not really in our interest. So yeah, probably not going next year.
Yeah. So, hope you guys enjoyed this look at a poor man's E3. I'm sure you guys have your own versions in your countries, unless you're in America, which makes everything pretty big. But thank you for watching. I mean, this is what we have. Let me know what your experiences are over where you live. Thanks, Rinnegan.
Thank you for having me, Globku.
No problem. See you guys next time. Bye.